Disordered eating is something that is very personal. I battled with an eating disorder for basically the entirety of my swimming career. It's important for me to talk about these issues because it's something that I think is unfortunately still shrouded in so much stigma. It is very difficult to explain an eating disorder to somebody who doesn't, understand, who has never had that lived experience. But I explain or describe my eating disorder as very much like my best friend because it was a safety net. It was something that was familiar, constant, and even though it was destroying me, and even though I would cry every day after binging and purging and trying to starve myself, it was just something that I was able to hang on to when I felt like the rest of my world was sort of falling down around me, or that I wasn't able to control what was going on. And the irony of it all is feeling as though I was in control of my eating disorder when in actual fact it was in control of me. I was losing weight. I was losing strength and power when it came to competing and to training, and that then meant that I wasn't able to, meet goals that were set out by myself or my coach, and that obviously had a negative impact on my training ability. And because that was my entire life at the time, it obviously had a negative impact on my day-to-day life and my ability to, I suppose, pay attention when I was studying and pay attention in conversation and pay attention in training. And so it really started to impact absolutely every area of my life. I was struggling with eating disorders for a decade, and it was basically throughout my entire sporting career. And so I'm lucky to have got to the places that I did in my sporting career, but it also destroyed my international swimming career as well. So I was at the point where I think I had pushed my body and my mind to the extreme in every possible way. And when I was selected onto the team to represent Australia in Athens at the Paralympic Games, it was obviously the highlight of my career. But I often talk about it being very bittersweet because by the time I'd landed in Athens, my body had basically had enough, and I was the only member of the Australian team to not make a final, and my body just couldn't handle it. I was too fragile, I was too weak, and so that was absolutely devastating. And so to look back and to realise that it was essentially my eating disorder that had destroyed my swimming career, something that was the only positive in my life while I was going through that entire rocky road and that journey that was so tumultuous, to realise that it had gotten to the point where my rock bottom was that I had to retire from swimming because of the fact that my eating disorder had taken over my life. It was, pretty devastating. I think if a coach can identify that an athlete of theirs is struggling or there's been behaviour changes, that they take the opportunity to ask the question whether or not that athlete is okay. And I appreciate that for some coaches, the conversation that then occurs is something that perhaps they may not be able to have the tools or strategies to then personally deal with, which is completely understandable. But perhaps they could then say to that athlete, I have somebody else that might be able to talk to you about these particular issues, and together as a team we can work through this. And so I think that if we can start to break down those barriers and get everyone talking, from coaches through to athletes through to psychologists, through the entire team, so that we all have an understanding of what's going on when we're talking about these mental illnesses, then I think we're going to be able to make a lot more ground when it comes to preventative methods, which I think is really, really important.